Do I actually have to show my face?
Oh God, I was really hoping you didn't.
Yeah, I don't know if people are going to want to stick around for this shit if like my face is up here.
What's up, Adam? Good to have you on here, my friend.
And good to see you. It's been too
Yeah, how are
long.
you?
What's it been? A day, two?
Yeah, oh, not even. Oh, awesome. So yeah, this is a fascinating topic because I think most of us have lived one side of it or the other, if not both. But yeah, I think there's a misconception for a lot of people about what goes into, that move from an IC into a manager slash leader, as well as what the distinction between a manager and leader is. So let's just hop right into that.
I have no idea. Not kidding. Just
Well,
kidding.
damn, this was a
Um,
short event.
so I'm going to start with a story, and you've heard this story before, but some people haven't. And I think a lot of people think that because you're a top performing rep, you're the best salesperson, that you should get that promotion to, and I'm going to use the word manager, and I want to preface that manager and leader are very, very different things. But you should get that promotion. So I started my career in medical device sales. I was very fortunate, rookie of the year, rep of the year, all that good shit, right? I'm doing great. A district manager role becomes available and I apply for it. And hell, why the hell wouldn't I get it? I'm the number one rep. Like, there's no reason I shouldn't get this role, right? Guess what, my friends? We go through the interview process and I don't get the role. And like, I'm bummed. I have no idea how in the hell could I not get this role? But no one gave me any feedback. So I keep doing what I'm doing, selling, have another year as rep of the year, and new role comes available, district manager role. I apply for it and I don't get it. Now, I remember like it was yesterday. I was at the San Diego Marriott Marquis, which is a great hotel if anyone hasn't stayed there, right on the water. I have a whole nother story about that hotel. Um, we will not tell it on this podcast.
Oh
But
man.
my VP of sales, who to this day, she was the best VP of sales I ever had, says to me, she's like, "Do you want to know why you're not getting this?" And she used the word leadership promotion. I said, "Yeah." She's like, "It's going to be some pretty harsh feedback." I said, "Great, give it to me." She said, "Because you're an asshole." I said, "Excuse me?" I truly was, because I did not view myself as such. She's like, "Let me explain." She's like, "You are fantastic at sales, amongst the best I've ever seen." She's like, "But you won't share your ideas. You won't tell people what makes you successful. You don't try to uplift others. You don't try to mentor others. It's all about me, 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 me. If you want to be a leader, the first thing you need to realize, it's not about you anymore. It's about everyone else. So you need to understand that you have to stop talking about how great you are and start sharing how you can help others and sharing what makes you great and realizing that it's not these secrets that Adam J has. If you share with everyone what you're doing, yes, some people are going to do better, but the fact is, and Jason, you know this, if you and I are both selling and we both say the exact same thing to the exact same ICP with the exact same product pricing and everything else, the fact is someone's just going to like you better than me. And that's okay. I mean, most everyone will like you better than me, but that's okay. You have to recognize that you just can't be an asshole, number one. I mean, you could be a manager and be an asshole, but that's not the topic of what we're talking about. We're talking about being a leader, which is very different than being a manager. Managers are for factories. People don't want to be managed. And yes, being a leader, part of that is being a manager, right? Like you have to check the boxes, dot the I's, cross the T's, and do all that shit. But if you really want to see a team excel, you have to be a leader. And to take it one step further, you could be a leader without being a manager. There are some great leaders that I've had on teams that I've been a part of that were SDRs, were
Mhm.
BDRs, were AEs. But you know what? They were the first ones that people would go to for advice or for help. So that's my opening and that's my story. We could go in so many different directions with that. But if everyone who's on here doesn't get anything else out of this, I work with, I coach new managers, I coach new leaders, I coach a ton of founders. The number one advice I give everyone, whether you're a founder or whether you're a BDR, is don't be an asshole, because no one wants to work for you, and you're going to burn people out really, really fast.
So, what's your definition or distinction between a manager and a leader?
Yeah, I love it. So a manager's job is to check the boxes, make sure everything is being done properly. They look at your activity, they look at your numbers, they're going to listen to your call recordings. That's all management shit, right? Like that's all stuff that we need to do to manage. When it comes to being a leader, what leaders do is create a vision. Leaders get people to want to follow them. And I want to be very clear with that word, want to follow them. You don't have to, but you choose to. And it's not done through manipulation. There is a saw a post on LinkedIn the other week from a founder who was like, oh, great leaders are, you have great leaders like JFK and Abraham Lincoln, but like this is unpopular, but like Hitler and Marilyn Manson were great leaders too because they got people to follow them. That's not a great leader. That's a cult. That's manipulation. Let's be very clear, and disgusting behavior. But part of being a leader is you do have to get people to follow you. And the same VP, Jason, Whitney Parachek, I'll never forget, told me that at the end of the day, your job as a leader is to get people to be willing to run through a brick wall for you. Where I say, hey, team, this is the goal we have to hit. This is why. The why is very important. And everyone's like, great, we're going to do whatever we have to do to get there. That's what being a leader is, right? It's setting that vision, it's making people want to work with you, and it's gaining the buy-in of that team. And it's not easy.
Absolutely not. I mean, that's why we have many more managers than leaders. Um, so, besides not being an asshole, what are required elements, traits, whatever, to be a successful leader?
I thought that all we were going to talk about was not being an asshole. Um, there's for anyone who hasn't listened, Jason and I have to have this banter where we just give one another shit. Um, there's a lot, right? I think it starts with cultivating the vision. You have to be a great storyteller. You have to be able to, excuse me, frame things in a way that people understand and people want to follow. And that goes beyond when I say cultivate a vision, I'm not talking about writing a vision statement or a mission statement. Like anyone could do that. I have one on my website. It probably took me an hour. And with that, I did not use Chat GPT, but like anyone could do a mission statement, right? But it's really what is that compelling vision? What is that North Star, if you will? And how do you get everyone to rally around that single North Star? Because that's the only way you're going to drive innovation. It's the only way you're going to motivate the team. And it's the only way that you're going to execute on those strategies. Simply said, managers rely on the vision of others, right? They rely on the visions of leaders. Leaders are really seeking to create their own vision.
Great, great. Beyond that, where do you see the biggest stumbling blocks that people trying to make this transition and figure out this leadership thing get hung up on?
So let's talk about a few things, right? There's this mindset of I'm an SDR, I have to be an AE next. I'm an AE, I have to be a manager next. I'm a manager, I have to be a director, so on and so forth. That is horseshit. There is no linear path that you have to do. I did not wake up one day and say, I'm going to start as an AE and I want to be a CRO. I happened to go that path, but I have numerous examples of AEs that have moved into marketing and marketers that have moved into RevOps, et cetera. So don't get caught up in this path of I have to do, one thing or another. What you need to realize before you, make the jump from IC to manager or leader is a few things. And you have to recognize that there's some pretty cold, hard facts that you're going to have to be comfortable with. Number one, you're going to have less freedom, right? As an individual contributor, you are responsible for yourself and yourself only. You shut down at 5 o'clock and you are done for the day. Guess what, my friends? That is not the case of leadership. I get Slack message when I was working for full time companies. I would get Slack messages all day, all night. You have to respond to them. Maybe not instantly, but you have less freedom. Number two, you're gonna have less job security. The fact is that number one rep is usually pretty safe. Leaders, not so much because you have the weight of the entire company. You have less cash upside. Now, this is a tricky one, right? Because everyone's going to say, oh, the VP of sales makes the most money or the CRO makes the most money. You are right. A VP of sales is going to make more money. A CRO is going to make more money. But a frontline manager, that first step to leaders, you're arguably going to make less than your top 5 to 10% of reps. I had reps that would 2x my income. You got to be really comfortable with that. And then your income is dependent upon all of your team, not just you. One of the companies I work for, we looked at revenue in a very unique way, right? It's very easy if you have, let's say you're a leader and you have a team of 6, you have 4 top performers, 2 people that suck, whatever, you're going to make a great ton of money, right? 50% of our bonus was tied to team attainment. So if you didn't have at least 90% team attainment, you had a holdback of 50%. Why did they do that? It forced you, number one, to really develop everyone. And it also forced you, number two, to not allow your personal feelings to get in the way of decisions where you might need to let someone go. As a leader, you crush your number. One thing and one thing only is going to happen. Here's your quota increase for next year. You don't just get to stay steady. And then the other thing that you just have to really, really, really be comfortable with is your name is not going to be in the spotlight anymore. Your team is. A good leader is one who will tell you, my team did that. We did that. We worked on this. Forget the word I, it doesn't exist. Yeah, you certainly, listen, take credit for strategy. You could take credit for things, but at the end of the day, you're not in the spotlight anymore. So if all of that lands well with you and you're comfortable with all of that, there's upside, right? Now, you can lead a company towards a goal that could triple everyone's stock valuation. Like, that's pretty powerful. You can take a rep who has no experience whatsoever and see them cash their first 6-figure check. I remember like it was yesterday. I was at Toast and I had an AE who was a GM at a restaurant. He was making $58,000 a year, so it wasn't like a high-end restaurant. He turned out to be a great sales rep and he bought himself a Porsche. Now, not what I would do with my money, but he came in and he was like, this has been my dream car forever, and I wouldn't be able to do it without your coaching. Like, talk about a moment, dude. Like, if you truly want to develop others, seeing an underperforming rep who is on a PIP, which we can certainly talk about my feelings on PIPs, turn into a P Club rep, helping people get promoted, all of that stuff. I agree with you on the Tesla. All of that stuff is important. And also forging lifelong friendships, man. My best friend is that rep who bought a Porsche, by the way.
Oh
He's
well.
my best. He's my best friend to this day. He was the best man at my wedding.
Oh, that's
That
amazing.
never would have happened if I wasn't a leadership. But you have to remember, I think at the end of the day, there's a great Stephen Covey quote that sums it up, that leadership is a choice, not a position. If you want to be a leader, if you want to help others grow, anyone can do that.
That's very powerful. And yeah, I could not agree more. The highlights of my career, best things that I've ever done, things I love the most are those people that I've hired, brought into roles, given them opportunities, and then seen them flourish and turn into rock stars. Yeah, notorious for loving to hire people straight out of liberal arts undergrad programs with no actual training background, anything in what I wind up hiring them to do. And I love them because they can think for themselves and they can think creatively and critically and they can figure stuff out. And as well as I do, early stage startups, like nobody's got the time for hand holding or spoon
No,
feeding stuff. And so that role and that type of person, it works so well together, and then watch them grow into these, consummate professionals and track their careers. I mean, similar story, just uh, all of these, seeing them progress over the rest of that career, becoming friends, seeing them get married, seeing them have kids, like all of, and, even all the way down to like the negative side of it, being somebody they call when their life is falling apart. Like all of that stuff is the
That
greatest thing.
and I mean, listen, like the fact is, not everyone has it in them to let people go. Like, I hate to go negative, but the fact is, like, if you're a leader, you're going to have to fire someone, right? And it sucks. I remember the very first time I did it, my stepson was 6 at the time, and he happened to be sitting somewhere else in the house. Like, he was able to hear the conversation, and he comes up to me afterwards, and he's like, "Daddy, you just took food away from that man and his family. How is he going to eat?" Oh, like that hurts, right? But
As if you weren't feeling bad enough.
right. And if you don't feel bad when you fire people, with the exception of if they're lying, cheating, or stealing, I have no tolerance for that. But other than that, if you don't feel bad, again, you're not a leader, you're a manager. Every time you let someone go, you need to ask yourself how you failed, what you could have done differently. What could we have done to set this person up for success? Should we have hired this person? Maybe we shouldn't have. There's so many things to look at, but letting people go is hard. And if it doesn't weigh on you, the day it stops weighing on you is the day you probably shouldn't be in that role anymore.
I couldn't agree more, and it raises one of the things that I thought you were going to say when I asked about qualities or characteristics of good leaders. But in my opinion, one of the most essential ones is that quality of empathy,
Mm.
that lets you that makes you ask those questions about why didn't this work, what is going on, can I get to the bottom of any of this. And for me,
I
at
mean,
least in my career in leadership, like that's probably fundamentally the most critical thing that I bring to it, I think.
so I think empathy and I think overall just overall emotional intelligence, right? Overall EQ. Like
Yeah.
if you don't have that, like you can't go through like a bull in a fucking china shop, right? Like I tried. Trust me, I tried. It does not work. It might work in one situation at one place, but all you are going to do is alienate people. If you don't have, to your point, the empathy, the ability to look inward, a hyper sense of self awareness, the ability to eat a massive slice of humble pie, you will be a manager. You will not be a leader. One of the things I try to tell everyone on any team that I'm leading, whether it's full time or in a fractional role, I love to experiment, right? I'm going to roll out lots of ideas. I think that's how we have fun. If something doesn't work, I'm going to be the first one to get up in front of all y'all and be like, that was stupid and I shouldn't have done that. And if we're going to try something and you think it's stupid and we shouldn't do it, I encourage you to talk to me and tell me why and propose solutions. Now, listen, don't do it in a room and say, hey, Adam, you're a moron. Probably not the best way to do it. But pull me aside and be like, hey, like, that might not make the most sense. Have you thought about this? My job as a leader, and whether it's in that situation or if I'm on a call with you or if we're in person with a customer, isn't to tell you how to do things. It's to challenge you to think differently, to think strategically, to use your brain. So like I'm not the leader who's going to give you the answers. Like if you come to me with a problem, come to me with 3 or 4 solutions and we'll talk through what your solutions are, how I think about it. And my job is to challenge you to think differently. But you have to be willing to say, I was wrong. There are so many companies that have died because people rolled out wrong ideas, shitty product, shitty code. The feedback, both internally and externally, was just that. And no one would just say, we messed up. Like, it's okay. And even as simple as like, so I'm not going to self promote here, but like we're starting a podcast, right? And yesterday we interviewed Udi Ledegor, who's the CMO of Gong. And one of the things that he said that makes their team really successful is when they mess up, even as simple as like sending out an email that's like, hey, first name, oops, they own it, right? They will immediately send out an email and be like, guess what? We're human too. We messed up. There's this mindset that as a leader, you have to wear this armor and you have to be perfect. You don't. Like, you arguably will get so much more out of your team by showing vulnerability.
Was going to say exactly the same thing. You'll be shocked whenever you actually own that you're human, that you make mistakes, what you get as far as response and buy-in. I tell people that are running marketing automation for me, and I mean, inevitably, you're going to send that email. It's going to go to the
Yeah.
wrong people, or it's not going to have properly formatted merge tags, or it's going to, include, you used it as a template from something else and you forgot to update it. And it happens. It happens to every single company, every brand, every email marketer. And I tell them every time, it's like, get out as quickly as we can a correction and own that we messed it up, and then watch what happens. Like, we will generate significant pipeline and revenue from this mistake because we owned that we were human and that we messed up. It's no different as a leader. Like, everybody
Yeah.
does it. Like, don't try and pretend like you're not human. And by being human and having, because the other thing it demonstrates is reasonableness of expectations with those team members whenever you make a mistake. You
So
good.
let's talk about that. You said something that's so true. And you said be human, right? And, I'm looking at something that I wrote a few weeks ago. And one of the things here is create human connections. There's two schools of thought, if you will, that I've come across. And number one is work is here, home is here. They can't interact with one another. You don't talk about your family. You don't talk about your kids. You don't talk about what you do in your off time. I have you for 8 hours a day and we talk about work and that's it. You will not last on my team if that's your mindset. I think it's important to create human connections. I can tell you when someone's on my team, and again, however much they're comfortable sharing, but who their wife is, who their husband is, whose their kids are, when their birthday is, when their anniversary is. I will send a card for every anniversary. You have to be human and genuinely care about people. And listen, the fact is, there's going to be people on your team that you like more than others. That's okay. It's not a popularity contest. You still have to treat everyone fair. But when you create that connection, when you share that personal part of your life, you're humanizing yourself and people want to work with you. Notice I did not say for you. There's a
Absolutely.
reason that behind me there's pictures of my wife and my kid, and that's on all my calls. I want to be human to people and I want to know about them. But when you're creating those human connections, like, there's so many things that people don't think about. You talked about empathy, which is really important. Radical candor is another principle that's near and dear to my heart. Don't be an asshole, but give people true, real, in the moment feedback. Because if you let it build up and build up and build up, then you just have this pot that boils over when it doesn't need to. There's nothing wrong with telling someone, hey, Jason, like, what you said upset me. Or,
Yeah.
hey, Jason, that was awesome, man. You have to do that. You have to create that real human connection. And one of the best ways that I've found to do that is having there's a few things. Number one is one-on-ones. There's two different kinds of one-on-ones. There is, let's talk about the numbers. Let's talk about your pipeline. Let's talk about your deals. Let's talk about, marketing, the demand gen program that you're running. All of that's great. Let's have a separate one-on-one to talk about professional development. Let's talk about your career and where you want to go separately. Because when you do them together, it comes off as disingenuous.
Mhm.
The other thing that I think a lot of, not even just leaders, that people don't necessarily do great with, is, it's the Monday morning Slack of, hey, like, or Slack or Monday morning team meeting, like, how'd everything go? And, oh, I had a great weekend. I did this with my wife. All right, great, Jason, what you do? And you ignore it. A simple, that's awesome. Congratulations. Sounds great. All of those things, you're creating that, human methodology with people by having conversation. Oh, that sounds like a great weekend. You guys do that a lot. You're opening it up, right? Oh, your kids are cute. Did they help you make the costumes for Halloween? You're opening up conversation and you're humanizing yourself and you're letting people feel seen and heard, and that makes people want to run through brick walls.
Could not agree more. So we were talking earlier about this doc that you use as you're coming into a new team. I had never heard of this concept, much less seen something like that.
Yeah.
But I think this would be great to share with the audience.
Yeah, so this is one of my favorites. I will plug here. If anyone wants a copy of this afterwards, just drop me an email. I will give my email at the end of the show so that I force you to listen to the whole show. See, I'm learning marketing 101. It is called a working with doc. So working with Adam, working with Jason. This is something that one of my coaches a long time ago told me to do. And at the end of the day, what it comes down to is we're all humans and we're all individuals, right? There's things that annoy me. There's things that I like. There's ways to get on my good side. There's ways to get on my bad side. I like to communicate a certain way. I like to receive feedback and give feedback a certain way, as does everyone else. So, what I have is a working with Adam doc. I send it to everyone that is ever on one of my teams. I send it to all of my fractional clients as well. And it's broken down into a few different sections, and I'm actually looking at it here. So, who am I at a kind of core level? My Myers Briggs personality type with a link to take your own for free. How do I like to communicate? What do I value personally and professionally? What do I have absolutely no patience for? What do I appreciate? How can I help you? How could you help me? And my favorite is what people misunderstand about me. And I told you this one, but I'll share it with everyone because it's important. And it's one of the things that got me to create this doc. I move 1,000 miles a minute. When a Zoom is over, I tend to hang up very quickly. When I'm on the phone with someone, I tend to hang up very quickly. And a lot of times people would take that as being abrupt, as being rude, as hanging up on them. So in my doc, I specifically call out the fact that that's just who I am. I know it. I try not to do it, but I don't ever mean to be rude or ever mean to offend. If I do, please let me know. I call out that the only way that I'm the typical sales leader is I curse like a sailor. If it offends you, please tell me and I will try to tone it down because it's my job as a leader to acquiesce to other people's feelings, not for everyone to acquiesce to how I want to lead and how I want to feel. So what that doc does is it allows you to kind of share that information about yourself and provide the team with, what I'll call psychological safety, right? There's a lack of fear of judgment. We're putting it all out there on the table. And then I encourage everyone on my team to write one as well for themselves. Doesn't have to be as long, doesn't have to be as detailed. The doc is a living document. It gets updated and iterated over time. I updated mine as recently as a week ago. When things change, you have to make changes and be aware that you're going to change as a human being. But I'm happy to share my template with anyone who wants it.
Yeah, I definitely want a copy of that. I've done a lot of the things that you have mentioned that you share in it, but it's all been ad hoc. It never even occurred to me to actually standardize it and pull it all together. I have to say the one I have to warn people about most often is I'm a philosopher by training, and so debate is just innate in
Mm,
me, and I'll do it just for shits and giggles. I'll take all sides of a debate, all sides of it, and like it can be off-putting for people. It's like, why is he arguing with me about this? And it's like, no, this is just like it's fun. It's what I do. For a lot of people, they don't get it, and so it's like, gotta caution you on this. Like,
yeah. But that's great to caution someone on, right? People might think that you're being an a-hole, but you're not. To me, I listen. I love a good argument. My wife will tell you. My kid will tell you. I don't shy away from conflict, but a lot of times it's just to seek to understand. Like,
Mhm.
how convicted are you in your statement? Like, how much do you really believe this? And it's one of the things that we talk about a lot with people when I'm training people. Is like if you come to me with an idea and I tell you, yeah, not great. I don't want you to look at me and be like, okay, great, I'll go. Like, stand your
Exactly.
ground. Like, if you believed in it
Exactly.
enough to come to me with it, stand your damn ground and tell me why I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I tell them all the time, it's like nothing will please me more than for you to show me that I'm wrong. It's like
Yeah.
I'm gonna push back. I'm gonna let you know what I think about it and stuff like that. But it was like push right back at me. Like nothing will make me happier than for you to have thought through it better than I did and show me the error in my ways.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
Um, what are things you specifically struggle with beyond the asshole thing as you matured as a leader?
The hardest part for me was figuring out how to manage what I'll call up, down, and sideways. I think there's so much focus on you're a leader, you're a manager, manage your team, right? Keep your team in check, make your team grow, make your team happy. Um, that there's no emphasis on managing up and managing sideways. So, what do I mean by that? Managing sideways, your peers, right? Your other managers, you need to develop relationships with them. You need to have this kind of peer network where you, excuse me, you look at each other with a mutual respect, where you are helping one another and, remembering that there is a company goal, not just a my team goal. Managing up is what it was and probably still is to an extent the hardest for me.
Hmm.
When you're a frontline manager, you have like an RVP that you're reporting to. When you're a VP, you have or when you're a director, you have a VP, and a VP, you're reporting to C-suite. Communication is very different when you are communicating with a C-suite than when you're communicating, sideways or even one level up. You have to learn what's important, how to be concise, how to get your point across, and how to give and take feedback. So, for example, if your CEO wants you to roll something out that is incorrect, because think about it, your CEO is removed, right? They're looking at big picture. You are the expert in your domain. I can't just look at you and say, Jason, you're wrong. We're not going to do that. That's probably what I call a CLM, a career limiting move. What you can do is come back with data and explain, hey, I heard what you said, but I'd love to show you a different point of view with some data that shows why we might want to look at this differently. Data is your best friend, but it's very important that you learn how to communicate concisely. The C suite wants high level, clear objectives. They don't want, most of the time, they don't want to get into the nitty gritty nuances of it. So I struggled with that. And then the other thing that I really struggled with up until recently, Jason, was the concept of my first team. So if you have not read Five Dysfunctions of a Team,
Hmm.
incredible book to read. But when you are a frontline manager, your team is those and this is not my term, so please don't think I think people are below me. But it's managing down. So it's your team. And as you move up in leadership, what you realize is you have two teams. You have your team that you oversee, and then you have your first team, which is the executive team. And the team that has to take priority is that executive team. And that's very, very, very hard to make that transition, to go from fighting for Jason's comp plan and why we just need to pay him that extra $1,000. Like, yes, the deal didn't close, but whatever it is, to understanding that my job is that I have a fiduciary responsibility to this company that I have to protect. And as much as I want to pay that $1,000, my responsibility is to my first team. That was very, very hard for me to learn and understand and learn how to do that in a way that doesn't alienate my team. And the way that I found that works with that, and I try to embrace this with everything I do, is explaining the why behind the what. You have so many people who are like, oh, it's none of their business why. Like, they're just going to do what I say because I'm the boss.
Right.
Again, no one's running through a brick wall for that person. This is what we are or not going to do. And let me tell you a little bit why.
Absolutely. So you talked about some of those underappreciated challenges of leadership. What are some of the ones that you had the most struggle with, and then what were some of your ways for trying to address and cope them? I know for me, it's been things like how do I balance like time with family where I'm not responding to stuff all the time, or how do I actually find and make the time to actually do some self care? But what
Yeah.
for you?
So that's still a big one for me. Not to like cop out. My wife and I talk about it all the time, and it's funny, right? Because I went out on my own so that I didn't have to always respond to everyone immediately and feel like I was missing something. You know the story, but like I had a CEO who told me that I had to cancel a trip because that's when they wanted to have a phone call at a time I was on a plane. And I was like, I'm done. I'm never doing this again. I still struggle immensely with seeing that red circle of notifications, whether it be Slack or whether it be messages. Like I have some text messages now on my computer. It's like it gives me agita. Learning that it's okay to step back. It's okay to not give instant response is something I definitely struggle with. One of the hard things for me is I tend to really invest in my people, more so than I should. And when someone is struggling, um, I will go above and beyond of spending time, of coaching, of developing, to the point of almost self sabotage, where it will pull me away from things I should be focusing on because I'm so focused on making someone better. The other thing that I think was really hard for me is treating everyone equally, not treating the top rep different than everyone else.
Mhm.
If Billy can have Tuesday off, there's no reason Maggie can't have Tuesday off, right? Like, yes, there's certain benefits you get for performing, but recognizing that everyone is a different individual, but you still have to treat everyone equally is something that took me a while to be able to do and do well, and it's still something that I work on.
I think it's something that's challenging for all of them. I've got a 10-year-old daughter who's just buried in her phone in electronics, and
I feel
it's
you.
a split household. So, and her mom is convinced like she has no problem with electronics, and it's like I can look at her screen time when she's with you. She absolutely
Oh,
does.
do we want to pull up our kid's screen time? I bet you my kid has more screen time than yours.
But it's so challenging, and I'm trying to like talk her through and educate her on like this shit is designed to be addictive. Like
Yeah.
literally has that's how they built it. Like you've got to come up with strategies that are effective for it. Because it's like if your strategy is willpower and I'm going to try harder, it's like you're guaranteed to fail. It's not going to work. So you got to come up with strategies for actually being able to manage it. And yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's taken me doing things like Gmail on my phone. I do not have notifications on that. I'll have a notification come up as it comes in, but I don't have the dot. I don't have the counter on it
Interesting.
telling me how many there are and stuff like that. So it's like I know stuff's coming through. And occasionally I'll catch something that's important as it flashes and jump right into it or whatever. But there was no way I could put that down without having that taken off of it. Otherwise,
I
I'd have
literally hand my wife my phone and say, "Take it." No joke.
yeah, and I mean it's like that. Yeah, if you want to be off your phone for an hour before you go to bed, like you've got to put your phone down. Some people have to leave it outside of their bedroom in order to do that. And yeah, it's figuring out what that takes.
But the society, it's funny. You talk about the addiction with kids, and listen, my 12-year-old son is the same way. Like it's summertime, he's probably averaging over 8 hours a day of screen time. Like I don't even want to look because it will make me sick. But I think that that holds true for us as well, right? I was talking with someone about it this morning. Um, LinkedIn is that for adults. And like you've seen me say it, you know more than anyone on here, but like I get so wrapped up in fuck the algorithm's off this week and this post that should have been great didn't get any reach and my engagement count is down and I have to go on LinkedIn before I go to bed because I might miss this one comment that I have, this one thread that I have to comment on that's going to bring me business. And like, it's an addiction. And I know it's an addiction. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do about it. I've never struggled with addiction of any kind in my life, but like I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't legit addicted to the need to be on LinkedIn at all times. And Crystal, my wife, says, and she's right, how can you tell Zachary to put his phone down when you're driving in the car and at the red light, the first thing you do is pick up the phone to look at LinkedIn? So the point of this here is no matter how high you go on the proverbial food chain, leader or not leader, like we all have things that we struggle with, and we all have things that we have to recognize to be better leaders and to help make better teammates better.
So I got to ask, with you going off on your own, and inherent to it, to one degree or another, certainly as you grow outside of a as a single owner operator entrepreneur and into a place where you actually hire somebody, you're a leader by sort of by default. Um,
Yeah.
and so, how does the transition to entrepreneur feel to you relative to the transition to leadership?
Harder. It's the hard. Listen, I'm very lucky, right? Like I was able to make this change. I had a great network. I planned on not having revenue for a good amount of time, and I've been able to very transparently like reproduce my salary in a month. So I'm very, very fortunate. That said, the struggle is real because while that's the case for this month, or whether it's a 3 month or 6 month contract, whatever it is, you got to replace them, right? At the end of the day, like my goal is not to be in your business forever. That is the opposite of what I want to do. The struggle of going to entrepreneurship and recognizing that now I have to do everything. I am an SDR, I'm an AE, I'm RevOps, I'm the operator, I'm the consultant, and everything in between is hard. But I have great partners that I do outsource some stuff to, and that brings the leadership game back because they ultimately, work with me at that time. Um, but I think that there's a lot of similarities in transitioning to leader and transitioning into entrepreneur, where you have to be hyper self-aware. You have to recognize that your words have weight more so when you're an entrepreneur than when you work for someone else, especially like in the social and in the LinkedIn world. Um, and people are looking up to you, and people are looking to see what you are going to do, what you are going to say, and what you aren't. My goal is to turn this into an agency, if you will, and that's about all I'll say because I don't want to give away ideas. But that's going to require, going back to leadership. I love leading people. It is my true passion. It's the reason that my side hustle is still coaching people. If I can help shape the next generation of leaders and make sure that they're coming up the right way and not making the mistakes that I made, I'm a happy person.
Yeah, I feel like entrepreneurship is right up there alongside leadership of like this thing that people think they want until they actually have it, and then it's like, oh wow. They
Yeah.
used to they used to invite me to speak to groups of aspiring entrepreneurs, and I got to the point where I was like, I'm going to spend the first 45 minutes of the hour that I have telling you why this is the dumbest fucking idea you have ever thought of in the entire world, and you absolutely should not do it. It's like if at the end of that 45 minutes you're still with me, you're like, I'm still gonna do this. It's like we can spend the last 15 about like how do you get started and what are some of the pitfalls to avoid. But it's like I will do everything I can to tell you why you do not want to do this, which is probably the
It,
reason they don't invite me so much anymore.
I mean, there could be that. It's hard, right? Like, let's face it, that first 15th of the month, when that paycheck doesn't come in and you don't have a client yet, and your kid wants to go out to eat and you have to tell them no, that's hard.
Or
Scaling from zero and going after business is hard. And what I find, certainly for me and almost every entrepreneur I know, I will go hawk the shit out of your product, right? If anyone on this call wants me to go promote their product, like, and I worked for them, like, I'll go do it all day long. Rev Genius is the best thing on the planet. You want to sign up, but tell me to go out there and promote myself and my services and talk about how great I am? Fuck no, man. And I don't know why. And we all suffer from the same thing. Like, I should be shouting it from the rooftops, but I don't do it. And none of us do. Self promotion's hard.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I suck at self promotion. Um, and yeah, as hard as the, hey, I didn't cut myself a paycheck or be able to pay for things is, the even harder one is, going to the team and saying, we're going to have to do half salary this month. And by the
Mm,
way, I'm not taking anything. Like, I have spent more sleepless hours worrying about payroll than anything else in my business career. And it's just purely from when I've been an entrepreneur running my own thing. And man, it's hard. I mean, it is
mm.
not for the faint of heart. And it's, anybody out there that's an aspiring entrepreneur, I think it goes for leadership as well, just to a slightly lesser degree. All of these things that we're talking about are the reason why self care becomes so critical. It's the whole, why you put the oxygen mask on yourself before anybody else when the plane's going down. Like, well, if you're passed out on the floor, you're not doing anybody else
Can't help anyone.
any damn good. And so if you're not in a place to be able to weather these things and be able to do it in such a way that you're functional and you're able to help guide and solve for these problems, then everybody underneath you goes down as well. And so, it becomes that much more critical. It's self-care not just for yourself anymore. It's self-care because you're on the hook. You owe it to everybody else. And whenever, the shit hits the fan, you've got to be able to be in a place that you can handle
And pick your favorite child first that you put the oxygen mask on.
it.
It's I don't like Southwest Airlines, but they come up with some of the funniest things ever. That was one of them, and then the other one was this is a no smoking flight. However, if you'd like to smoke, please step outside. If you can light it, you can smoke it. It's
Oh,
it's funny when you look at becoming a leader, like there's some pretty hard pills that you need to swallow to understand that. And I have a few that I'll share in full transparency. Like I'm putting out a manager to leader course, so I'm like literally reading from it. But I think a couple things you need to realize that a lot of us didn't learn the easy way. You absolutely cannot change people. Don't think that you can. There's nothing you're going to do to change people. The only thing you can change is your expectations of people. So if you're constantly disappointed, your expectations are the problem, not the people. Now, you might need to change who the people are, but the old saying is you can lead a horse to water, right? You touched on this one, Jason. Selfishness isn't a sin. We're taught that it is, but it isn't. In order to survive, you have to be selfish, right? Self care, self worth is going to fortify your self being. You cannot pour from an empty cup, period, the end.
nope.
Um, and just two more, I think that we tend to think that the higher up we move, the better we are. That's not true. The world is not fucking indebted to you. It's indifferent. No one cares. Create your own purpose, create your own rewards. No one owes you anything. And, if you want to be a leader, if you want to be an AE, if you want to be a manager, if you want to be a director, whatever it is that you want to be, you can. There is absolutely always someone who is less qualified than you living the life that you want to live. The difference is they took the fucking action to do it.
Mhm. Absolutely. And yeah, on the self care front, I mean, I think probably the biggest thing that I can advise people to do beyond, just like the basics, eat halfway healthy, get some sleep, get some exercise, whatever. Have a network. It is so
Mm,
fucking lonely at the top. And the biggest way that you're going to get in mental health trouble is trying to do it on your own with nobody to be able to share it with, nobody to be able to talk through, nobody to get advice from. And the dirty little secret is like every one of us, we're making this shit up as we go, and we're most of us learning it the hard way. So, give yourself a little bit of grace, give yourself a little bit of understanding, and for God's sake, go find a network, a place, whatever, that you can go
Yeah.
and find some support and some people to talk to.
Truth. It's when I first went out on my own, like it's the loneliest place in the world. And if you don't have people that you could talk to, if you don't have people that you could rely on, if you don't have people who've been in the same boat that you've been in, it is lonely. And I will do a totally, selfless plug here, but like go get a fucking therapist. Like everyone thinks that there's something wrong with therapy. I'm telling you now, I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for years of therapy after my divorce. Um, there is nothing wrong with talking to someone who is unbiased, who has zero vested interest in whatever outcome happens, but who is going to look out for what's best for you. Therapy is wildly underrated.
I could not agree more, but that's from somebody who's literally been it in his entire adult life. So,
But there's a stigma with saying that, and that's the problem, right? Like I had someone on my team, I'll never forget. Like she told me in silence, and I'm like, this is something to be proud of. And I was so proud when she put on her calendar every week at whatever time it was, therapy block. Like that's fucking awesome. Own that.
and I found that that's the case most of the time, damn near all the time. Like that thing that is so dark and scary that you got to hide and all of that stuff, you bring it out in the open, and hey, at a bare minimum, it stops being so dark and scary and intimidating. And more often than not, it becomes something that's actually beneficial. Like, can't tell you the number of people I have helped by sharing those, what a lot of people would think, dirty little secrets. And it's like,
Yeah.
by sharing that, by being human, by acknowledging like, hey, I need help, I have things that I struggle with, whatever, like, it's like, oh, it's okay for me to talk about it. In a lot of cases, like that's the impetus for them to finally like open up and go get help. And it's, you never know what your sharing of something is going to do to help somebody else. And that goes all the way down to what I was talking about, like having a network. Like so many of us, God knows I'm probably one of the worst of them out there, that feel like, oh, I'm imposing on somebody, I'm intruding on somebody if I ask for help or ask somebody to listen, let me talk through something or whatever.
That's
And I'm
why I
reminded
always text you first.
but I'm reminded almost every time that more often than not, my doing that has helped them in some way.
Yeah.
And it's like, that thing that you're so scared of bothering somebody about or whatever, at the end of the day, like winds up more often than not helping them at a bare minimum. It certainly reinforces your relationship with them, that like, hey, you're somebody I can come to and I can share these things and be vulnerable with and stuff like that. And it's just a big thing to try and learn how to do, but it's something that I don't know, if there's any, if there's there's very few that like, they just come naturally to them. And
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm radically open about this shit.
Love it. I love it. There's
And
someone asked a question. Someone asked a question, Jason.
yep.
We often hear that a lot of sales, I'm assuming that means salespeople, become bad managers. Any advice to work on to prepare this change, technically or strategically? Like when you're a manager and you want to promote a rep into a team lead. Um, I'm assuming the question is, we hear that a lot of great salespeople become shitty managers. I think to me, it goes to how we opened this, right? Being a great rep doesn't mean that you're a great manager. They're wildly different skill sets. Going out there and closing business is very different than teaching others how to go out there and close business. It's very different than, motivating people and guiding people and being a resource for people. It's very different than thinking strategically and bigger picture. To me, I think the biggest thing that you can teach people when you want to promote them is understand the why they want to be a leader. If they want to be a leader just because they want the next title, pass. If they want to be a leader because they think that's what the next role should be, pass. If they want to be a leader because they want to help people, grow people, look at things through a more strategic lens, those are some of the things that you should start looking at. And everyone should be required to go through the reading, if you will. There are some really good leadership books out there that talk about how to do it right and how to do it wrong. Um, I would start there, but I would say don't promote the person to a leadership role just because they were a top performer. Oftentimes, you'll find that that's not the right way to do it.
Yeah, those don't often correlate. You can have top performers that are great leaders, but and vice versa. But there's not an inherent correlation there, at least in what I've seen in my experience. And there's actual data out there that backs that up. A top performer does not entail a great leader, and vice versa. A great leader, I would say, even more often is not a top performer.
Yeah. The best leaders I've had were they were good sellers. They were good marketers. They were good ops people, above average, but
Right.
certainly not number one.
Yeah, and I think inherent to that is just different mindsets, different skill sets. I
Yeah.
think it's a lot of what you talked about at the very start. It's the focus is on others and the team as a whole, which inherently in that means that you're spending time, bandwidth, energy on things that are not your own personal performance. And so, it inevitably takes a hit on what you're able to individually do in favor of what, the team, the group, whatever can do on that. And so, you're sort of naturally handicapped on the individual performer side of things if those are, skill sets or interests that you bring to the table.
Yep. 100%.
Well, Adam, we've got just 3 minutes left. Cool. We got one more question in. That's exactly what I was about to prompt.
What's a good way to think about the pros and cons of building a career upon taking less linear steps into leadership, i.e., taking a CRO senior leader role at a startup versus incrementing building upon maturity? Wow. There is, in my opinion, no right and wrong here, right? Like, I think this really depends what you want to do, how much guidance you want to have, and how much autonomy you want to have. I have worked for big companies. I started my career working for a public health company. I have worked for startups down to like seed level with bootstrapped and $50 in the bank, literally. Uh, you can, in a startup, you're going to have much more autonomy. You'll probably get a higher title, and you will arguably get your MBA in business. But you're going to have to figure it out by your damn self. And that's where that network comes in. That's really important, right? That you have that network and those resources that you can talk to, who are going to be able to help you through it. Big company, mature company, manager role, you are going to get process, you're going to get systems, you're going to get red tape, but you're going to get a lot of those processes that you need that you can then bring into startup land. But where I find a lot of folks in the startup world struggle if they spend time in what I'll call corporate America is they want to overcomplicate and over process everything and not realize that sometimes you just have to run fast, you have to experiment, and you have to break shit. Perfection is the enemy of progress, guys. At the end of the day, if you wait until, like, from a product standpoint, if you wait until it's pretty, it's too late. If from a process standpoint, if you wait until it's perfect, it's too late. Perfection is the enemy of progress. Ship the code, ship the changes, make the tweaks to the sales process, and then fucking fix the airplane while it's flying.
Could not agree more. The only piece I would add to it is I think it has less to do with, or it should have less to do with, your path to leadership. Do you want to try and jump ahead through a smaller, earlier stage startup versus a bigger, more established? And should have more to do with where you fit within an organization
Mm,
better. Me,
agreed.
for instance, like if you're over 150 employees or you've raised beyond a Series B, like I should have been sprinting for the door. I know that about myself at this point in my career. And so trying to go and fit, a round peg in a square hole because I'm trying to achieve something for a career, like I'm unlikely to be there long enough And even if I am there, I'm unlikely to perform the way I need to in order to be able to achieve those, professional, title roles, goals that I may have. So I think that at the end of the day should be the question more than, hey, is this going to accelerate me in one direction or another? But
Agreed.
well, we are at the end of our time, Adam. This has been fantastic as always. Love getting to chat and hang out with you, even if we've
Likewise,
got
man.
to have an audience on it. But it's been good. Hopefully, everybody else had a good time. Do you want to share your email address for those that are?
I would be delighted. I love some self promotion. So if anyone wants a copy of the Working With doc, if anyone wants to talk coaching, anything at all, three places you can find me. Email's super easy. It's aj@adamj.io. That is also the website, adamj.io. Or you can, of course, find me on LinkedIn. I apparently spend way too much time there.
And of course, you can reach out to any of us at Rev Genius if you're struggling to track him down. I have him on speed text. I can nail him down for you if you ever need it. So, but thanks everybody for joining. This has been fantastic, Adam. Again, always